Welcome back to the Old Photo Vault channel. Two sisters posing cheerfully in their father's home as a shadowy figure appears reflected in the background. Cedar Ridge house, 2009. The moment seems pure. A simple summer afternoon. Sunlight drifting through the windows as Lily and Mara cling to each other in laughter. But behind them, in the darkened doorway, stands the faint outline of Eleanor, the woman who lived and died in the house decades before. Local stories say she once spent her final years watching over children she never had, lingering near the doorway where she used to call them in for dinner. In the reflection, her figure appears still and silent, as though caught mid-watch, unwilling to leave the girls she thinks she's protecting. And even now, when the sisters look back at this photo, they swear the house felt different that day. Warmer, quieter, as if someone else had been standing just behind them, watching with gentle, ghostly eyes. A motion-blurred figure of a small girl appearing in a kitchen, caught on a home security camera. Greenwood residence, 2021. Jeremy never forgot the night his cousin called him, voice shaking, asking if he could take a look at something. The security camera showed an empty house, quiet, still, untouched, except for the figure of a little girl drifting across the kitchen floor. Locals whisper her name, Emily Warren, a child who vanished from the neighborhood in 1978, last seen wearing a nightgown eerily similar to the shape caught on camera. They say she wanders homes that remind her of her own, searching for the mother who never found her. In the footage, her small form moves softly, almost curiously, as if drawn to the warmth of a life she no longer belongs to, leaving behind nothing but the echo of her unfinished story. A quiet kitchen scene where two women sit together while a shadowy figure looms behind them. Willow Creek House, 1987. The photo feels ordinary at first glance. Just your mother and aunt sharing a soft moment at the table. But the darkness behind them tells another story. That shape, tall and hunched near the counter, matches the presence your family used to call the jerk, a restless spirit said to haunt Willow Creek House. He was known for prowling the kitchen late at night, muttering under his breath, opening cabinets, and tugging at clothes as though demanding attention. Some believed he was Henry Vale, a former tenant who died bitter and alone, angry at the world he left behind. In the Polaroid, his silhouette seems caught mid-step, as if he'd wandered too close, annoyed that he wasn't the one being photographed, just as petty and intrusive as he always was in life. And after, a vintage graveside photograph where a strange dark shape hovers above the headstone. Calvary Cemetery, Queens, 1926. The image shows Uncle Pete and his wife standing solemnly beside the freshly carved stone. But what unsettles the viewer is the shadow curling above it, as though rising from the earth itself. For generations, your family whispered about Matthias Byrne, the great-grandfather buried here. How he never left his post even in death, still roaming the crowded rows of Calvary Cemetery with a watchful, uneasy spirit. They say he disliked being forgotten, wandering closest to the living relatives who visited him. In this photo, the dark smudge seems to take on his outline. A faint face, an arched brow, a hollow eye blinking through the overexposed film. It's as if Matthias stepped forward for just a moment, curious and unwilling to be left out of the picture taken over his own resting place. A young man taking a quick photo in his friend's bedroom as a pale face appears on the screen of an unplugged TV. Maplewood Apartments, 2004. Janice's son had complained for weeks about the feeling. Cold pockets of air, soft footsteps in the hall, the unmistakable sensation of eyes on the back of his neck. The apartment once belonged to Evelyn Marsh, a reclusive tenant who died alone, known only for sitting inches from her old television, staring into the static long after midnight. Neighbors said she believed the TV was a window, a place where the dead spoke if you watched long enough. In the photograph, her hollow eyes and gaunt features seemed to glow faintly from the blank screen, as if she finally found someone watching back. Even with the TV turned off, Evelyn's reflection lingers, caught between worlds, still waiting for someone to hear her through the silence. A blurred, shadow-like figure descending the staircase of an empty home, caught by a motion-activated camera. Hollowcrest House, 2018. For more than a decade, the homeowner has spoken of the presence that roams Hollowcrest House. Footsteps that pace the hallway at dawn, doors that open without a sound, and the cold, sinking feeling of being watched from the landing. Neighbors whisper about Mr. Alden Crowley, the previous owner who vanished without explanation, last seen walking up those very stairs on a winter night in 1975. They say he never truly left, endlessly retracing his final steps, searching for whatever or whoever pulled him into the dark. In this photograph, his form appears as a shifting shadow, gliding downward with a purpose only he seems to understand. Even in an empty house, Crowley moves on, trapped in a loop of unfinished business that refuses to fade. A wedding party gathered on a sunlit staircase as a mysterious veiled figure appears behind the guests. Brookfield Chapel, 1983. Lisa always said that wedding days are supposed to be filled with joy, but this particular photograph carried something else, something colder. In the top left corner, peering between her brother-in-law and cousin, is a small, pale face, framed by what looks like a thin bridal veil. Locals once talked about Eleanor Whitcomb, a young bride who died on the chapel steps in 1923, struck down before she could ever walk through the doors to say, "I do." They said she lingered there, watching other brides take the path she never could. In this photo, her faint outline seems to lean forward just slightly, as if trying to join the celebration she was forever denied. Even 40 years later, the image still sends a shiver. Eleanor's quiet reminder that some vows, once broken by fate, refuse to rest. Three friends taking a cheerful selfie at a wedding venue as a translucent woman drifts behind them. Marlowe Estate Ballroom, 2019. They had laughed when the bartender told them, "Just a ghost story," he said. About Clara Wynne, a young woman who collapsed on the ballroom floor decades ago during her engagement celebration and never rose again. But later that night, when the women checked their photo, their smiles faded. Behind them, near the double doors, stood a pale, shimmering figure with hair cascading over her shoulders, her form blurred as though caught mid-step. Clara was said to wander the venue every year on the eve of a wedding, searching for the life she never had. Drawn to the warm glow of celebration, in the image, she seems to lift an arm gently, almost waving, as if remembering what joy once felt like. The ballroom, long quiet after closing time, held her shape for just a moment. Long enough to remind them that some love stories never find their ending. A groom standing in the sunlight moments before his first look, as a second ghost-like bride forms behind the real one. Pine Hollow Clearing, 2013. Shaylee's family always spoke quietly about the woods behind Pine Hollow. The way the air felt heavier there, the way brides sometimes heard soft footsteps matching their own. Locals whispered the name Maribel Crane, a young woman who vanished in those same woods in 1929 on the morning of her wedding, her dress never found, her story fading into rumor. But some said she still wandered the clearing, forever searching for the moment she never reached. In the photograph, her form seems to rise out of the sunbeams behind Shaylee's sister, white, drifting, almost layered over the bride's face, as though trying to borrow it. The distortion isn't random. It feels like Maribel leaning forward, drawn to the familiar flutter of joy she once knew. For 10 years, the family has wondered why she appeared. Whether she was seeking a connection, a reminder, or simply a wedding to call her own. and in the quiet swirl of light behind the bride. It almost looks as if she's walking the aisle one more time, desperate not to be forgotten. Two teens relaxing in a living room as a dark, human-shaped figure passes through the doorway behind them. Old Haverhill Farmhouse, New Jersey, 2007. Kevin's niece had always said the house carried a heaviness, a memory soaked into its beams from the centuries before. That night, as she snapped a casual photo with her friend, the air felt unusually still, like the house was waiting. In the doorway behind them, the shadow of Isaac, one of the enslaved men who died on the property, drifts through with that same slow, silent step he was said to make when he wandered the fields at dusk. His form hangs unnaturally long, as though the rope that ended his life still pulls at him from somewhere unseen. And even in the blur of motion, his presence feels deliberate, an echo of a soul who never forgot the land where he suffered and refuses to be unseen. A group of fishermen posing beside an enormous, unidentifiable sea creature washed ashore. Tillamook Bay, 1921. Old records from Tillamook Bay mention this day often, not because of the men, but because of what they dragged from the deep. Locals whispered that the creature was tied to the legend of Captain Elias Marin, a sailor who vanished with his crew after claiming he had heard singing beneath the waves. They said he was cursed for disturbing something ancient, something that didn't forgive. In the photo, the men stand proudly, unaware that the creature's swollen shape seems almost to bend toward them, as if listening. Some claim that when the photo was first developed, a faint outline of a man, salt-worn, hollow-eyed, appeared beside the carcass before fading slowly into the paper. They believed it was Maron himself, watching over the beast he once tried to warn them about. A final reminder that some things pulled from the sea don't stay silent for long. A trail camera photo capturing a lone buck as a pale, crouching figure watches from the darkness. Blackwater Forest, Maine, 2012. Hunters in the area always spoke of the birch walker, a silent figure said to roam the forest long after the sun dipped behind the pines. They claimed he was once Elias Thorne, a hermit who vanished in the 1800s and was later found frozen upright beneath a birch tree, his eyes wide open as if he'd witnessed something unspeakable. Since then, stories spread of a pale shape crouching low among the ferns, appearing only when animals sense danger. In this photograph, the buck stares straight ahead, alert, rigid, not at the camera, but at the figure behind it. And there, kneeling in the brush, Elias seems to take form again, hollow-eyed, twisted slightly forward, as if studying both creature and camera. Some say the birch walker protects the woods. Others believe he warns trespassers. But all agree on one thing. If you see him watching, you weren't supposed to be there. A lively group photo capturing friends mid-celebration as a pale, blurred figure rises behind them. Brookside Apartments, 2003. Rebecca Glassboro never forgot the night this picture was taken, because it was the night she first saw Marilyn Havers, the woman whose death still stains the history of Brookside Apartments. Marilyn drowned in her bathtub decades earlier, her passing ruled accidental, though neighbors whispered she'd been seen wandering the halls in wet footprints long after. In the photo, her face appears faintly behind the group. Long hair clinging to her cheeks, eyes fixed in a silent plea that no one in the room noticed at the time. Rebecca believes Marilyn wasn't just passing through. She was trying to be seen, drawn to the laughter she once had, but lost violently. And ever since that October night, Rebecca says the apartment grows cold at 3 a.m., as if Marilyn returns, searching for someone willing to listen to the story she never finished telling. A dim, empty bar interior, where a white, human-shaped figure appears to lean over the counter. Czar's Bar, St. Joseph, 2010. Jed never knew that Czar's Bar had a story attached to it, at least not until he moved in and snapped this picture. Locals rarely mentioned Lydia Crane, a former bartender who vanished during a snowstorm in the early 1980s after locking up alone one winter night. Some said she stayed late to close the books. Others whispered she never left the bar at all. In Jed's photo, her mist-like shape appears exactly where Lydia was often seen during her shifts. Leaning forward, head slightly bowed, as if counting tips or wiping down a glass. The apparition's posture is eerily familiar to the old-timers who still remember her. It's as though Lydia recognized the sound of a camera shutter. One last chance to step into the light. Still tending to the bar she never got to leave behind. A post-World War I family portrait, with a pale hand and faint face emerging from the foliage. Norfolk countryside, 1920. Jenna T. thought she was simply tracing her ancestry when she found this photograph, until the hidden presence made her breath catch. Her great-grandfather, still in his military uniform, stands proudly beside his young wife. But above him, slipping out from the tangle of branches, is a long, narrow hand with pointed fingertips, reaching as though to rest upon his shoulder. That hand belonged, according to family whispers, to Edwin Price, her great-grandfather's elder brother, who never returned from the war. Edwin was listed as missing. His body never recovered, and some said he haunted the woods where he and his brother once played as boys. Behind the couple, a pale face seems pressed between the leaves, sunken eyes, blurred but unmistakably watching. It's as if Edwin tried one final time to stand with his family, unable to let go of the life that moved forward without him. A ghostly reminder that not every soldier made it home, even when their spirits followed. A quiet room filled with children's toys as a swirling, child-sized mist forms near the storage bins. Lockhart residence, 2024. Debbie Lockhart never expected her curiosity to summon anything. She was only snapping random photos, half joking about catching something unusual. But in the corner of this image, the soft, cloud-like shape resembles the outline of Ella May, a little girl who once lived in the house decades earlier before a sudden illness took her life. Family stories claimed Ella May never really left her playroom. Neighbors often heard tiny footsteps or the sound of toys shifting long after bedtime. In the photograph, the mist hovers near the stuffed animals, as though drawn back to what once brought her joy. It's almost as if Ella May paused mid-play, caught for just a moment in Debbie's lens, before drifting back into the quiet space she still calls home. A man posing at the mouth of a cave as a tall, ghostly woman materializes in the darkness behind him. Duskfall Caverns, 2016. Explorers who venture into Duskfall Caverns often whisper about the Veiled Lady, a spirit said to wander the tunnels long after her body was lost to the depths. Legend claims she was Margaret Thorne, a miner's wife who disappeared in 1892 while searching for her husband after a cave-in. She was last seen carrying a lantern, calling his name into the echoing blackness before she vanished without a trace. In this photo, Margaret's form rises from the shadows. Tall, still, her face blurred as if forever wrapped in the dust of the cave. The man above her smiles, unaware that she is standing only a few feet behind him, frozen in the same posture witnesses described over a century ago. Some say she guards the caverns. Others insist she's still searching. Either way, she is not alone down there, and never has been. A family gathering captured on film as a shadowy woman watches from the staircase behind them. Briar Hill House, 1991. The family who lived in Briar Hill House often spoke of Agnes Rowley, the former resident whose life ended abruptly on the very staircase seen in this photo. She was known for her strict demeanor and her habit of standing silently at the banister, watching over the household long after her passing. In the picture, she appears exactly where she was found decades earlier. One hand resting on the rail, her face half lit, studying the scene below with cold, intent eyes. The woman and child in the foreground laugh, Unaware that Agnes stands only a few steps above them, her expression unchanged since the night she died. Some say she grows restless when families argue. Others claim she simply refuses to leave the home she ruled for so many years. But in this moment, frozen in the flash of a camera, she looks as though she has come to make sure no one forgets who still owns the stairs. The frozen remains of a ship's captain, found still seated at his post aboard an 18th century vessel. Black Ridge Arctic Waters, 2021, when the research team pried open the hull of the ice-locked ship. They expected crates, rope, perhaps relics of trade. But not Captain Elias Draycott, still sitting upright at his desk as though waiting for someone to answer his last order. His face, untouched by time, remained tilted toward the logbook where his final entry ended mid-sentence. According to sailors' lore, Draycott refused to abandon his crew during a violent Arctic storm, choosing instead to stay aboard as the ship froze around him. Some believe his spirit never left. Witnesses claimed they heard faint tapping from within the hull long before it was opened, as if someone inside was still trying to signal for rescue. Even after his body was recovered, the temperature in the ship's cabin stayed unnaturally cold, a chill that clung to the living like a warning. It was as if Captain Draycott had been waiting centuries for someone, anyone, to finally hear him knock back. And so, each photograph leaves us with a whisper from the past, faces that shouldn't be there, shadows that move on their own, and stories that cling to the edges of reality. If these moments stirred something in you, imagine what still lies hidden in old albums, dusty attics, and forgotten cameras. Before you go, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and share your own unexplained photos in the comments. Your story might be the next one we uncover, and the next presence staring back from the screen.